I think as a musician, you do it because you're passionate. You do it because you love it. Don't do it for the money, because once that happens, it'll change your perspective and then you won't be happy doing it anymore. And in this industry, you get what you negotiate. You don't get what you deserve.
This is the Conscious Economics Podcast, and I'm your host, Rhiannon Roseland. This is the place where we explore people, planet, profit, and art through the lens of the new economy. If you're interested in changing yourself, getting more creative, or changing the system at large, then this is the podcast for you. Tune in every other week as we explore these topics with amazing guests. We'll go deep, we'll go heart-centered and soul-felt as we go into how we change ourselves and change the world. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Conscious Economics Podcast. I am your host, as always, Rhiannon, and I'm so excited. I think I say this every time that we have an episode. I say I'm so excited for this particular conversation, and I have to say, I really am so excited for you all to hear this conversation. It's one that I have dreamed of having for a long, long time, and I was just so honored to be able to welcome Deborah Cox on to the Conscious Economics Podcast. So Deborah is an award-winning recording artist, of course, a Canadian Music Hall of Fame inductee, an international talent spanning the worlds of music, Broadway, television, film, and fashion. So she's an absolutely established songstress who has scaled the R&B and pop charts with 6 top 20 Billboard R&B singles and an impressive 13 number one hits on Billboard's Hot Dance Club Party chart. So in addition to this, she's had just an unbelievable career, obviously Canadian born, which makes us so proud. And she's been recognized for her undying commitment to various social justice initiatives. And we do talk about that in the episode. In 2020, Deborah was honored with Black Music Honors Entertainer Icon Award in recognition of her 25 groundbreaking years in the music industry. So she's, of course, a seasoned entertainer, both on screen and off screen, and is currently winning rave reviews for her role on BET's First Wives Club and the Emmy-nominated HBO Max series Station 11. In May 2022, Deborah reached a pinnacle career milestone when she made history as the first Black woman inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, which was just so incredible and so exciting. And in that same year, Deborah was given the key to the city and had September 23rd declared as Deborah Cox Day. So that's the key to the city of Toronto, where she was raised in Scarborough. And so she has received a star on Canada's Walk of Fame as well. And she's just had this unbelievable year. But what I love so much about Deborah is she exudes a whole other level of grace, of consciousness, of connection that is rare to find amongst anyone, let alone somebody who is in this business. Because a lot of the times, and we get into this in the episode, but a lot of the times when someone has this kind of iconic, long-lasting success, there's some kind of like strategic manufacturing behind it. And this is not what is going on with Deborah. Deborah is a true star through and through. I've had such beautiful moments just being in her energy and getting to know her and sit in her vibration, because it is just so clear and so high. And so I am so excited for you to listen to this conversation. Sorry for rambling. She just really excites me. So I hope you all enjoy this incredible episode. So much wisdom here with the amazing Deborah Cox. Hi, Deborah. It's such an honor to have you here. So, I want to tell you my why as to why I wanted to have you on the Conscious Economics Podcast. And I'm going to back up to the first time that I was actually in your physical presence. So you came to Lunar Studios,
Yes.
And you were doing a shoot there. And of course, we have this beautiful common connection through our friend Randy,
Yes.
who works with you and he's worked with me. And in my career, I've spent a lot of time with very, very, high level celebrities and politicians and heads of state. And I've just been in a lot of energy with a lot of people who do a lot of big things in the world. And one of the things that I felt in your presence was your complete presence. And I felt like I almost had a bit of a spiritual experience in your presence because you're coming through so clear in your energy. And it's very, very visible to me. And it may sound strange the way I'm explaining this, but what I mean is that you're so centered and anchored in yourself, in your heart space. You really, if you're, people see you on TV and in magazines and all of these things, and you obviously look so beautiful, but you're so beautiful in your essence in person. And it's not just about an appearance, it's about the energy that you show up with. And so when I speak to conscious economy leaders and people who are embodying this frequency of consciousness, I think of you as one of those people.
Wow.
In your own way, in your industry, in the way that you've come up. And so this is such an honor for me to get to ask you some of these questions that I will just, say to the listeners listening, I have not ever asked you any of these questions before, but they're true questions that I would have always wanted to ask you. So thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Thank you. I love the energy that you emit as well. And I think that's part of the journey of this life, right? Is to find those people that we have that soul synergy with, the people who
Yes.
understand us in a way that can not be put into words. So this is really a treat for me too, because I think that you really put into words what, it's very hard to understand how people perceive you. And so oftentimes I'll be in a room with people and they'll either just be sort of staring in confusion or like sort of in awe. And I'm like, is that because they're overwhelmed by the fame part of it, the celebrity, or is it something else, something deeper? And I'm happy that you said that it's actually something deeper. So that makes me feel
It is.
good.
It is.
Well, thank you.
It is. It's something much deeper, and it's a vibrational frequency.
Right.
And, in the most simple way to describe it, we emit a higher vibrational frequency when we're doing something with our life that we're passionate about. We emit a higher vibrational frequency when we eat well, when we are connected to our loved ones, to nature, when we're rested. Like, some of the things are really, really easy. And then there's other parts of it that come in. And so I want to start, because when I'm saying all of this and I'm picturing you in the work that you do, this is what the industry is trying to sometimes manufacture, is giving somebody this star essence. And, there's all this energy that's put into sometimes trying to make somebody a star. And then there's people who are born a star. And what the great sort of industry leaders in entertainment and music are able to do is spot when someone's born a star. And you are born a star. That is very, very clear. So I wonder, and I want you to take us on the journey of when you felt this tug or pull inside of you to be an artist and to be someone who is going to put your life in a public forum like this. Where did you feel that initial pull, and can you distill it down to a moment?
Sure.
Or how did it come through for you?
It's interesting because it's not a moment. It's really a combination and an accumulation of things. Because when I was younger, I knew that my voice was different. I knew that I had this way of connecting with people through music. And it didn't matter what type of song that I sang. I think I was about 5 or 6 when I realized, and I knew my voice was different from all the other kids. When they would sing, I just had a certain timbre and a certain tone that sounded like a professional. My mother told me that all the time. She says when I was 3 years old, but I remember consciously going, singing is what I love to do. I connect with melodies. I connect with music. And I can't explain what that connection is and how I sort of vibrate it out through others while I do it. But I just know that this is my calling, in short. So not being sort of affiliated to any church or any religion when I was younger, I do remember feeling a connection through different types of songs. So if it was, the first time I heard Whitney's You Give Good Love, I remember that sort of connection that I had in a spiritual sense. When I heard, early Stevie Wonder, there were certain songs specifically that resonated with me and that would stay with me throughout my lifetime. So I think that's been my connection. And then when I realized that I wanted music to be something that I got up every single morning to do, I remember it was getting a call to do commercial jingles. And I was in the studio and I just kind of knew my way around. I didn't feel intimidated by it. I didn't feel intimidated by being in the studio with other people who were working all these big gadgets. I just knew that I could handle it if I was in that setting. And I think it was at that moment, and I believe I was about 11 or 12, where I was like, how can I make this as a career? Like, I want to make money doing this.
Wow.
And so that's why I say it was like an accumulation of all these different opportunities that I felt, okay, this is what it is. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I remember just not ever feeling that intimidation when it came to the talent part. You know what I mean? I just knew I could deliver. The only thing that sort of scared me was performing, the performance part of it in front of an audience of people that I didn't know, that I knew were going to judge me. And I think that was the thing that frightened me the most, was them being judgmental of me. And so that was what I had to work on as an artist. And I think over time, I became more confident and I became more rooted and grounded in, okay, this is what I'm going to do when I'm on stage. And then I became more comfortable that way. And then that built my confidence. But it was very, very difficult to do live shows.
I can only imagine. And that really is a beautiful segue into something we've been talking about a lot at Conscious Economics, because we work with so many young and emerging artists, and the life of a touring musician, the life of, you can compare it even to a major CEO or a politician. It's this life where you're constantly on the road, you're constantly exuding out and pushing out a lot of your own life force energy to be able to fill a stadium with your energy like you do. It's not even just the physical act of the singing, but the energetic play that's happening. And then coming down off of that energy after, it's led so many artists to unfortunately use sometimes substances for that, or get caught up into just things that aren't really great. But what people don't understand is that it's actually so unnatural in so many ways, what you're asking your body to do over and over and over again. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit to that, because again, you can't fake the balance that you're in. Like, it's not a thing you can fake. So I can see that you're in balance, which is really, really special to me. And this has been like a burning desire for me to ask you, how do you approach this part of your life, and how do you maintain your balance and your health, physical, mental, spiritual, when you're doing this kind of work that is just so demanding, so much travel?
Oh, and you said it all in the way that you asked that question. You really addressed a lot of it, that it's constant energy going out. I think for me early on, I realized that I need to recharge. And so going by the beach, being in nature, being just in a quiet place helps to recharge me and recenter me. It gets very difficult over time when you have a family and then you have children and then all the other demands of life and motherhood and, being a wife and being a friend and being in this industry. It just piles on. So when you said that coming down from that high is also very challenging, it's so true, because it takes me a long time to just come down after a show. I'm so wired and full of energy, There were moments where I just have, a glass of wine. Then I had to really sort of recenter and just sort of find a new way. So it didn't require that all the time, And I found that in the same way that music energizes me, music helps to temper me and calm me down as well. So I'll find just either a good song that helps to just put me in that headspace. Sometimes it's even like tribal music, like tribal house music, or you know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting how, I don't know, there's something about the pulse of that just helps to just calm me. And then sometimes it's jazz. Sometimes I'll hear a little Sarah Vaughan and it just puts me into this place and then I'm good, So I really, the real answer is I surrender. I just surrender to every moment, and I try not to judge myself. I try not to guilt myself. I try to just surrender and just be. And if it means just taking that time out for myself to just give what my body needs or what I need mentally or whatever it is, I just
Yes.
surrender to
Yeah.
it and then move on.
Mm.
Yeah.
I can feel in my body the truth of that statement. Like I get a little trill when someone is really truthful, and it's so interesting because we hear this term like music is medicine, but we don't always hear practical ways in which someone is using that as medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So even just you speaking about that, and thank you so much for saying that it used to be wine sometimes, and I was in that trap myself. I mean, I was traveling 100 events a year across the country, small children at home, all of the things. And my nervous system didn't know how to adjust to being on such high hyper alert to then going into a space where like my babies want me to like snuggle and read soft
Right.
stories. And like, you know, it's like, it's this oscillation between these two worlds. And you need nature, you need to surrender and
Yeah.
allow your body to unwind at its pace.
Yes.
And each show might be different
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of, you know, it's a different audience, it's a different thing. So
Yes.
I just think that that's so beautiful and honest, and thank you. And that segues into this next question that I have for you. And this is again something that you're embodying, that is in the industry, if people could figure out how to bottle longevity, they would pay billions of dollars
Yes,
in
they
order
would.
to figure it out. They really truly would. It's
Mhm.
like the one thing that people can't quite crack. And there's very few that have been able to have true longevity. And what I mean by that is not just have, you know, a lasting, impactful piece of music that we continue to reference, but that someone who is actually impacting multiple generations, pursuing new projects with new vigor and energy like they were right when they started.
Yes.
And that is something that we're witnessing with you. It's unbelievable to witness the
Mm.
career and to look at the span, but to also look at the energy that you continue to show up with in new projects, that is like you are younger than you were before. Like, and I don't mean that in like an age conversation. It's an energy thing.
I totally get what you're saying, and I don't take any offense to it at all, because
Yes.
it is a
Yeah.
younger, youthful energy. And what it is, it's tapping back into that child, the child that
Mm.
loved music, the child that loved to
Mm-hmm.
hear, that would literally just get chills up her spine when she heard a certain song. And that, I feel like a bit of the pandemic sort of helped me reconnect with that, because there was
Mm-hmm.
nothing else to do. There's shit else to do. So it was like, what do you, how do we reconnect? Well, we are forced into it. So I think by me falling back in love with music and the industry in a different way, not in this way that I felt like I had to be the hamster on the wheel, but in a way that was really authentic to me, it helped me reconnect
Mm.
with projects that I'm passionate about. And I do believe in the law of attraction. I believe in, if you put certain things and certain energy out there, you'll get it back. And that's what's come back
Yeah.
in full circle. The past 2 years of it's given me back everything that I've put in, with the
Mm.
acknowledgement and the accolades and that kind of things, where I was just that hamster on the wheel, quite honestly. I was just trying to survive,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I wonder, and that is so true too. And again, you're really having an unbelievable couple of years here. Like there's this moment that's coming just with all the recent recognition and awards in the Hall of Fame and all of that stuff, which people, they dream of these things in a
Right.
career and they don't always achieve them. It's really special, but the acknowledgement that the work that was put in behind that is when it shows up and it manifests in the physical, because that's exactly how it
Mm,
works. So what was being put in by you before is what's bringing this part into what we're all now
right.
witnessing. It doesn't happen otherwise. So it's actually, what it tells me is you went through a process or a period where you understood your value so deeply beyond an egoic thing, beyond a whatever else. You started to understand and tap into your value, especially while as our world suffered through that this was your calling, that it always has been. And that's why this glitter of appreciation comes all around, because it emanates from within. And that's what is so beautiful. The Conscious Economics podcast is brought to you by CPP Investments, manager of the Canada Pension Plan Fund. Canadians can be confident in the fund's sustainability. CPP Investments has earned more than $300 billion in the last 10 years and has more than $500 billion invested around the world. The Canada Pension Plan is set to provide a retirement income foundation for generations to come. To learn more, visit cppinvestments.com. I also want to go back to something I heard you say in one of, the times that you were at Lunar Studios. You mentioned when you were early in your career that you get this moment where everyone wants a piece of you, and you used a lot of discernment in the early days. It was almost like you were preparing yourself not for a sprint, but for a marathon. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I think you were really discerning and wise beyond what most, when they get that initial bit, because we're told that there's so little of it and that it'll only last for 2 seconds. You didn't buy that. And I want to know just a little bit about that, because I think it's a part of this longevity as well.
I have to take this in two parts. I had to learn that the journey is the destination. And you can't understand that until you have time for things to give you the perspective to be retrospective about it. I can see everything now in a greater view, and it serves me now better because of the time, the 20, 30 years. So I think that was more just uniquely for me, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've learned in that time that everyone's purpose and process is different. And you have to just trust that what your purpose is and what God has for you is uniquely for you. I try to explain this even to my children, like all three of you, yes, we're the same family, but you each have a different purpose in life. You each learn differently. You're all different. You know what I mean? And so it's a little bit of just surrendering to it is what it is. That's what it is. Stop trying to force things. Stop trying to be in control of everything. Stop trying to, we're not in control of any of this. You know what I mean? And I think that's really the part that you got to accept is that as much as we're in an industry that thrives on the ego and being in control and knowing it all and having the right, not manual, but
strategy, playbook, it's all got to be this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to get back to just being completely present. And when you are that, and I went back to reading this book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. When you read it,
that is really powerful.
That book is, there were so many things that resonated with me, even on a deeper level now than when I read it 5 years ago.
Yes, because it's encoded. So it will teach you something depending on where you are in your journey and your vibration. So sometimes when people first get that book, depending on where they are in their journey, it's not going in. They're not having a soul understanding. They're having a mind understanding of what's being said.
Right.
But when you have a soul understanding of what's being said in that felt sense, it's transformative and it's like inviting you to that. And I love how you explain to your children, their differences, because it's like your soul essence. Like we each have a unique individual soul essence. And that is how we show up. And even though we could be in the same household with the same mom and dad and all of the things, we have a unique little imprint that we are making on the world. And that is a co-creation with our creator. And that's just so beautiful that you took it there. And that kind of lets me go in to speak about something that I think you have just done so beautifully, but nobody really has much idea because you've been private and you've been really beautiful in your sacred container that you've kept your family in. But you have a very long, beautiful, successful marriage and you're an amazing mother. And you've done that while in this industry, which again, these things could not be they're just not things you can fake, and it's hard, and everybody knows it because we see what happens typically. And it's
Right.
not just for people in your industry, it's for everybody. It's a lot of work of self-discovery and self-understanding to really mother and to really be a partner
Hmm.
and to have a lasting relationship like you've had. You've been together with your husband for a long time.
Yeah, 25 years.
Woo. And in meeting him and just like seeing the energy between the two of you, like there was a really special energy around you and him. Like he just seems like such an anchor and
Anchor.
seems
Yeah,
so,
that's it.
so deep in where he stands beside you,
Mm.
which he'd
Yeah.
have to be because you are just this whew, like it's huge, you know? So tell us a little bit about that journey, about, balancing the amazing career with the mothering and being a partner and what that looks like for you.
Thank you for recognizing that he's the anchor. He really is. And I think the only reason why I can be so the sort of butterfly in the relationship, just checking out every tree, every flower, and I can, lilt through a lot of things is because he's that anchor, because I know that he's solid, and early in our relationship, we were very, very honest with each other and truthful and painfully honest, brutally honest. Like, okay, this is
Mm,
what it is. I mean, we were together about 6 months before we decided that we were going to really be committed with each other. And it was that early in our relationship that we knew, I think we were both at a stage in our life that we wanted a friend. We wanted somebody
mm,
that was going to understand each other. And we found that in each other. We found that resilience vibe. Like we really were committed to being fighters for each other and fighters for the
mm,
relationship. And it wasn't conditional based on a career or money, or it wasn't based on any of those things, all of these sort of exterior things. It was really on a soul level. Like, do you want to be that person in life with me to like ride or
mm-hmm,
die? When I hear that phrase, ride or die, like that's what we committed to. And I think if that other person isn't willing to do that, then that's okay too, because then at least you know.
mm-hmm.
But I think a
Yep.
lot of people get into it with these sort of rose-colored glasses, thinking that it's not work. But no, it's work. It's a conscious effort, the same way that we put effort into setting up a meeting or setting up a call or doing this with the kids or doing that. It's the same conscious effort that you have to make and put into your marriage and for the things that make you happy.
Mm-hmm,
I think that's sometimes what's missed and what's sort of taken for granted because they think that the
mm-hmm,
sort of romantic side of things is what's going to carry it through. They will to a certain extent, but then there's the
mm-hmm,
real maintaining it and being consistent with it is the part that you just work at every day,
mm,
and making it a priority. I made it it has to be a priority. So if, I tell people like, look, if you're having issues in this area, then don't do that anymore. Find other
mm-hmm.
ways to replace things to help save what is your core and what is going to keep that solid. So I know that's what's worked for us.
That's huge. I mean, even just the fact that you had these very brutally honest conversations early on. So many folks are afraid to have the hard conversation because they think it's going to result in the relationship coming undone. So they
Right.
are afraid to ask for the truth. And instead, we drift on this idea of peaches and roses and, the rose colored glasses until they inevitably fall off and you're always left with the truth. So knowing the truth and working from truth is the best way to keep that container clear
Yes.
and to have the depth where you understand one another and that your goals are aligned. And I think that that's really wise advice.
Hmm.
And what about on the mothering side?
Ooh,
Because that is so tough.
it
Like,
is.
this is a tough, tough thing. It is not easy. The pandemic has made me such a better mom.
Hmm.
Like I really went so much more deep into because I was also forced, and I'm going to admit that right now. Everything was stopped, and I was there just with them, and I had to reattune myself to them. And that was hard for a moment because we were so busy that we had the moments we had, which were beautiful, but I didn't know how to be continuously present like that
Yeah.
because I was career driven, always gone, always on the road,
Hmm.
always whatever else. And it was really hard for me to adjust. But once I melted into it,
Yeah.
ooh, like I almost didn't want to leave. So,
Yeah. The mothering part is a very tricky one. It's a tricky one because I love being a mommy. I really, really do. And now that they're teenagers, I miss the younger ages. And I sometimes
mhm,
often wonder if I did enough or you know what I mean? But my husband always reminds me, like, listen, you were present in those moments. Like you were always
mhm,
present. And I'll even ask my girls, because they're still home. Our son is in college, but they're home. And so I'll even ask them, I ask for validation because I want to make sure that they aren't missing anything or that they haven't missed anything. And I'll just say, like, when you were younger, how did you feel about this and that or that? And I just recently found out that they didn't like their elementary school. Like they didn't like it because I switched them from a public school to a private school. Essentially, they didn't like the
mm,
private school, but it was
mm,
really for reasons for us. We wanted all of three kids to be at the same school and to be blah, 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 blah.
mhm,
But if I had just maybe had a conversation and explored maybe what they were feeling, they probably would have just been fine with
mhm,
being where they were. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes as a parent and as a mom, you can mother too much and you can impose your own fears on your kids, which
mhm.
is very hard not to do, but it happens. And, you just have to do your best and you just have to know and understand that it's a process and you got to trust it. And again, it's uniquely for you. So don't guilt yourself in being the perfect mother. It's being a mother is
It
all of
doesn't
it. It doesn't
exist.
exist. It really doesn't.
Yeah,
It's just who
yeah.
you are and how the kids turn out to be. That's the journey. That's whatever whatever
Mhm.
comes out of that is what it is.
I always like to think that they picked us,
Yeah.
like they picked us, they chose us. And, if mine were looking down at me, like I was no perfect little saint. So they picked me. So they were picking this ride in some way. And one of the things that you just said there that really resonated with me, and I just want to highlight it to the audience. You basically said you were doing your own work because your own conscious understanding of yourself and what you might be passing on to them in terms of your own fears or your own whatever you picked up on. And that's basically what you said just there, is that you got to know when that's your stuff or when it's actually theirs. And that
Right.
takes doing your own reflective work so that you're passing on the things that are worth passing on,
Hmm.
and you're not passing on the stuff that we inevitably pick up, and that's generational. And so
Hmm.
it's, I think, doing that work to be able to distinguish what generational jewels do I want to give them and what generational pains do I want to leave them without. And that's just what you in practice are doing, which I think is really beautiful. I want to pivot over to this idea of the struggling artist,
Mm.
because I think so many young musicians and artists who are coming up from communities that are underserved, that don't see themselves reflected or don't understand that there's a balance, that you don't have to be the Drakes of the world, that there's lots of different variations of how you can be an artist
Hmm.
and still have financial wellness and still have stability. And I think we're starting to do a better job of speaking about that. But I wonder if you have any advice around the idea of struggling artist, but also just bringing financial wellness in and being in balance in that side of your life and career, because it's so easy to get taken advantage of as an artist. I really think it is. So I wonder if you have any wisdom.
My mother used to always say, save your money, save your money, save your money. And that has never, ever left my subconscious. It really is about having a little bit of something for a rainy day. And I think as a musician, you do it because you're passionate. You do it because you love it. Don't do it for the money. Because once that happens, it'll change your perspective and then you won't be happy doing it anymore. And in this industry, you get what you negotiate. You don't get what you
Mm.
deserve. Most
Mm.
of the time, you just get what you negotiate. And so,
Dropping it hot with that advice. That is so well put.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and so I think if you just keep everything in perspective in the sense that, in order to live your dream and have your dreams realized, you're gonna have to find another way to sort of make money to fuel your dream, and I think if you make
Mm-hmm.
peace with that as being the journey of it, then it'll serve you better. Because I think a lot of musicians,
Mm.
get very discouraged and turned off. But it's like, no, back in the day, even back in the 90s, you had to work in clubs, and at the end of the night you were leaving with, $70, $100. Like, it wasn't that much money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you're going in with, again, rose-colored glasses, thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start my YouTube channel and this, that, and the other, and whatever, it may happen, but it also may not. So just keep it in perspective. You know what I mean? And just take out that whatever it is that you commit to yourself for that rainy day, do it, because you just never know.
It's so true. It's so true. And that's how we see, I mean, even just this week, Justin Bieber selling all of his music. It's been a big news, in the industry right now that he sold, and people speculating, oh, like he had to liquidate because he's had tours canceled or whatever else. And it's not about speculating about him personally, but it's just saying, just because you're making a lot of money doesn't mean that you don't need to still have that advice in, because big money can be big losses.
Yes.
And, big lifestyle can be, you still may have a bunch of income coming in, but it may be different than what you were used to, or whatever that may be. So it's like these little lessons, they don't skip over anyone, no matter where we are on the socioeconomic scale.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're saying to the young artists that are listening applies also to those that are in the peak of their careers. It's the same advice. So your mom gave you good advice. And
like you said, live within your means.
And it's easy too, because I think the industry, it wants to flaunt a lifestyle. And so I know a lot of young artists that are trying to keep up with this image of, materialism and all of these things. And it's like, I really hope we're getting to a generation where we're being more real, and we understand that the value in life is not necessarily about the things that we own, but the things we accumulate in our wisdom and our hearts and our connection to each other and nature.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is the conscious economy. And that's part of, this movement that we're trying to bring together, is really show people about other currencies that are important in life, while also acknowledging the important currency that makes this world go round right now in our system, which is money. And it has a particular value attached to it, both energetically and then out in commerce and in the world. And it's kind of being able to balance those two. So we're running to the close of our session here, and my heart is feeling so full already from everything that you have put down here today. So it's just to kind of ask you this last piece. It's no denying that our world is changing. There's no denying that, the pandemic has definitely had an impact on every single corner of the world, on every industry, on every person. And we've also seen all of these other really big movements that have started to just, I think, push the boundaries of how we're thinking, how we're approaching the world, whether it's Me Too, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's speaking more openly about LGBTQ plus rights. I think that we are in this pivotal, transformative time where our world is changing. And right now it can feel a little scary to watch, but I'm so anchored in believing that something better is on its way. And I wonder what your wisdom is for this future generation that's listening right now, that's sort of caught in watching something kind of unravel. What is your advice? How are you keeping anchored during these times? And what do you sense or feel is kind of coming or happening? How do you interpret it?
I think at the very core of it, I think is finding what is truly going to make you happy and feel connected to your authentic self. Because when you're just dealing with truth, then that's all you're dealing with. That is going to give you longevity when you're living your own truth, when you're creating things that are authentic to you, things that you're passionate about. They will always mean something to you. And so whenever something is really resonating with you, it can resonate and it reaches, and I think that's where the longevity comes in, because you can always refer to that, refer to your truth. And that's what gives you that stability in all of the changing times, the ebbs and flow of just life and how things happen and move. You can always stay in your constant truth. That will be your anchor.
That's so beautiful. And it's so true. And I think that even right now, with the various movements of things and changes in the economy in the world, it's easy to hook on to someone else's truth as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to kind of, feel like, well, I've got to get swept up in that. But being able to, just know you. And I think
Know
that that's
you.
coming
Yeah.
through. Know you. And if you don't know you, then find ways to find out who you are because,
Yeah.
otherwise the marketers and the algorithms, they're all trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
you out. I was like, how did that Instagram know I want that unicorn light, or whatever it is? It's like, I better know me or it's going to be pushing me into something else. So this has been such an honor. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I say always, it truly is a spiritual experience to sit with you and your energy and to hear from you. And I am so proud of everything that you do. I'm so proud that you are Canadian and we're watching you always with just so much love and admiration for all that you do and all the light you bring. So thank you.
Oh, this was great. It's so lovely to speak to somebody else who reverberates the exact same message.
Mm,
That's what's lovely about this interview.
mm,
I've never had an interview like this ever. It's groundbreaking in the sense that it's like, it's okay. And that there are people that want to hear something a little deeper than just, what else is going on and the same old,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I appreciate this conversation as well. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. And we will link all of the new, latest, and greatest things that you're up to below. So for those of you that are listening, you'll be able to find out what Deborah's up to. So many fun things and hopefully more fun things that we'll be doing together. So I'll put that out there
Yes.
as a little manifestation and we'll end it right here.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't know about you, but that episode was one to keep forever. I'm so honored. Just again, I think you who have all listened to this just now know exactly what I'm talking about. Deborah is someone who exudes a wisdom, an honesty, and an integrity that is really unmatched. She just has such a way about her. And I know that when we, see somebody like her who has such an incredible talent with that voice and the way that she commands a stage and really just, lures in an audience with her incredible talent, but it's also just who she is as a person, I think, that makes her so unique, so special. And I just love all the wisdom that she shared in this episode. So I hope that there was something for you all to take away from this. And if you want to learn more about Deborah, some of the work she's doing, when she may be performing next, we will link her website below. And the other really exciting thing is that September 23rd in Toronto, for those of you that are local, is Deborah Cox Day now. So I do have a feeling that there's going to be some amazing stuff that's going to be planned for that. And we look forward to learning more about it and sharing everything that we can with our community in terms of what Deborah is doing as she comes back and forth between Canada and now where she calls home in Miami often. So I hope you enjoyed that amazing episode, and I will see you again, or you'll hear from me again 2 weeks from now on our next episode. Have a great week, everyone.